Very little politics on the front page of the Daily Nation today. They talk about a nation in crisis, major sectors, education, healthcare, public system in turmoil, with the government struggling to quell unrest, and they call it an emergency. So they talk about health. Private hospitals have turned away patients unable to pay cash after cutting credit to SHA, citing past deaths. Tutors and police face denial of services as well. On matters education, learning in public universities has been paralyzed after lecturers went on strike to demand 8 billion shillings salary arrears and schools in a cash crunch. Many are yet to receive capitation for learners. Meanwhile, counties, thousands of employees are going without salaries, with the devolved units blaming the Treasury for delays in release of funds. The story is on pages 2 and 3, and it paints a picture of a limping nation. If at all, we cannot take care of the devolved units, we cannot take care of health, we cannot take care of education, then what are we taking care of? Na tumeambiwa tupatie polisi pesa ya fuel. Hii nafikiri wafunge milango, kila mtu ashuke tutende. Kila mtu aende huko. So families have been stranded in hospitals as hospitals reject SHA cover. Meanwhile, National Treasury blamed as county staff go for months without salaries. Students are suffering as lecturers strike and funding is delayed. So those are the big stories. But kuna ile lazima tu kukuwe na scandal mahali. Queries on how tycoons bagged 15 billion shillings rice import deal. Telling you, in Kenya sometimes unaangalia headlines unasikia tu wah. And as far as politics is concerned, very little on the front page, but I'll make mention of it. Ruto calls for community-led healthcare. Jubilee prepares for Matiang'i takeover and is eyeing a Ruto showdown. We'll be having the former MP for Nyeri Town, who's a member of Jubilee Party, atatueleza zaidi. Gachagwa's party rocked as Banisa candidate pulls out of by-election. Wali nominate candidate alafu akamwona State House akisalamia mzee. Na hiyo ndio walitokwa na huyo candidate, I tell you. So back to the front page, other highlights. Queries, hiyo tumesoma. Grand reception for Kenya's athletics champions, at least it happened. Lilian Odira, who bagged the gold in the 800 meters race, is lifted as she arrives during the reception ceremony at the JKIA yesterday. Also in set, we have Beatrice Jebet, who won gold in both the women's 5,000 meters and 10,000 meters. She's just there displaying her medals. Alafu wanaiuma hivi, kuonyesha ni ukweli. Hii sio hivi hivi. Pale juu, the only political story on the front page of the Daily Nation today is a highlight on what Matiang'i is doing with Jubilee. Apparently, he's in talks with the Uhuru Party leaders. Former Interior CS Fred Matiang'i met Jubilee officials yesterday ahead of the party's special national delegates meeting scheduled for Friday this week. Meanwhile, ile story ya Endarasha, mahali kulikuwa na moto. Families are now suing the state and the school of a fire that killed 21 boys in Nyeri. The number of affected families is 10 that have signed the petition. And that story is on page 10. Tukienda back page, of course, they're sharing more photos on welcoming home our champions from their heroic visit to Tokyo last month. No, is it last month or this month? From the World Athletics Championships. So that and those are the main stories on the Daily Nation today. From the Daily Nation, tuingilie masuala ya siasa sasa.
Playing Ruto. Flip-flopping, Raila Odinga's shifting signals have thrown ODM into turmoil, leaving allies baffled, opponents wary, and supporters unsure whether the party stands with government or opposition. While defending President Ruto's policies on one hand and hinting at a 2027 ODM presidential bid on the other, the enigma of Kenyan politics has unleashed confusion that threatens to fracture his party and cloud the nation's political horizon. Na amewekwa hapo nyuma ya the president akicheka sana.
Yule mwenye alichagua hii picha anachoma.
Ni kama anajaribu kusema anachekwa. According to Jeanette Mohammed, all political relationships have a lifespan of 5 years. You either renew at the next election or you move on. He has also confirmed that we are family in the broad-based arrangements until 2027. And he's the one who was saying anything about the party, refer to Baba.
Refer to Raila.
James Gakuya, Raila's door to join the opposition has been closed. He dented himself. He can't always be using others.
Unajua alisema yeye akiwa wapi?
Here.
Hapa, TV 47.
And Odinga is quoted there saying, and I quote, "Stand for what is right for the party and look at what you have signed and remain as an ardent member. We have signed that we will work together up to 2027, but have not passed any resolution as a party to say how we are going into the elections of 2027.
Yeah, so he may be causing confusion, but at least there's clarity here. He's saying, yes, we've signed a document until 2027. So unless we sign another one for 2027, musiseme tumesign, hatuja sign bado. This one could just be upping his stakes for a better power sharing deal ahead of 2027.
Contract in Asia 5 years
contract
time.
is going to expire.
Yes. That is the only story on the front page of the Standard, but other stories here. Shah officials pause as patients in bid to silence protesting hospitals. Healthcare providers say Shah officials are disguising themselves as patients to spy on hospitals instead of paying claims. The government is accused of launching a coordinated campaign of fear. All right.
There's this story on page 3, where there's a 50-year-old man who has sued his mother and a man that he claims to be his biological father in a fresh bid to seek his recognition. In his new case, he says that his identity on the birth certificate does not reflect his true roots. Anataka kuwa identified in a certain way. Hii kwa birth certificate ni kama si ukweli.
All right.
He's 50 years old.
Family seeks clarity on officer's death in Haiti. And President Ruto used the Unga platform to announce the death of 3 officers yesterday. Benedict Kabiru's mother say they were shocked to hear the president's remarks in US. And Benedict Kabiru was mentioned. They have no any information about the whereabouts of their son, Benedict.
Sasa nikurudishe page 3. Kuna hadithi pale chini ya kotini. The High Court has allowed the DPP to drop a 112 million shilling fraud case charges against 2 businessmen. Nataka tu usikize hapa kidogo alafu tutaenda na tutauliza maswali mengi. The High Court has overturned a ruling that blocked the director, the DPP, from dropping criminal charges against 2 businessmen. Justice Alexander Muasia Muteti overruled the magistrate's decision over the application to hold proceedings against Jayesh Javda and Tribovan Javda, directors of TRV Towers. Na nimemalizia hapa. Tuendelee.
All right, on the back page of the Standard, Dembele and Bonmati are world's best. Dembele edged out Barcelona sensation Yamal to succeed Man City midfielder Rodri. And Spain's Aitana Bonmati claimed the women's prize for the 3rd year in a row. And he said, I really don't have the words. It was an incredible season with PSG. All right.
Na pia on pages 30 and 31, they've shared a lot of photos of our heroes and heroines from Tokyo, Japan, as they were welcomed at the JKIA yesterday. Yes. All right, from the Standard, more politics on the front page of the Star, how Raila is plotting for 2027 top race. You realize now, tukitoka hapa kwa hii nation in crisis, tunaingia siasa. Playing Ruto, Raila, backing UDA without power sharing deal could hurt ODM. And yes, that's the same thing. Anasema ile deal tuko nayo ni hadi 2027 unless the contract is renewed. Tusidanganyane, hakuna contract anywhere. So that's the story on pages 4 and 5 of the Star. Other quick highlights here. Kenya-US back gang suppression force in Haiti, and the President William Ruto, has been very vocal about the situation in Haiti as he attends the United Nations General Assembly in New York. Jana nasikia Trump alienda hapo akawaambia, kweli tu niwaambie, historia ya climate change is the biggest con. Napenda tu vile Trump anakuanga tu, yani ajali tu. Yuko tu. And the highlights on the front page of the Star, how IPOA plans to deal with human rights abuse by cops, and farmer grabs 2,000 acres of Egerton University land. Details have emerged of a mystery farmer who holds about 2,000 acres of Egerton University land for maize production. An audit established that the beneficial owner is not known and the value is not disclosed, creating ambiguity. 2,000 acres. The report has flagged multiple public universities sitting on billions of shillings worth of land and assets with no proof of ownership. Unajua hata kuna Moi University, kuna 3,000 acres yao ilichukuliwa na jamaa fulani anajulikana, lakini wapendi kumtaja jina. Na ikaenda tu hivyo. Sasa kuna 2,000 acres of land ya Egerton University. Kuna jamaa anapanda mahindi kweli pale, na wasemi ni nani. Hata sisi hatuwezi sema ni nani. Unajua ni nani?
Hata sijui hiyo story.
Hata University of Nairobi has a lot of land. Kidogo kidogo utasikia mtu amepanda kahawa na hatutajua ni nani na hata semekana ni nani. Back on the front page of the Star pale juu, Frederick Okango anazungumzia ODM at 20, and he was a director of I think elections or something at KANU. Then he resigned. He resigned yesterday. Akapost your resignation kila mahali watamuza, so resign toka KANU sio kwetu. ODM at 20, legacy of sacrifice and unwavering fight for justice. Does he intend to join ODM? Mbona anasifu ODM na hata jamaliza, hata resignation ijakubaliwa bado. CS Miano hapa anasema Kenyans to enjoy free entry into parks on Saturday. This is something interesting as we head towards the Christmas and the holiday season. On Saturdays utakuwa unaingia park tu fwa. All right, this is a Star, fresh, independent, different. If you have 60 shillings, ya leo siya bure, 60 bob. Una grab yourself a copy of this paper.
Tukisonga mbele, Taifa Leo, Uhuru kupanga washirika andaa mkutano mkuu wa wajumbe Ijumaa, ambapo duru zasema huenda viongozi wapya wakateuliwa. Kuna kila ishara kwamba huenda Rais mstaafu Uhuru Kenyatta akamtwika aliyekuwa waziri wa usalama wa ndani Daktari Fred Matiang'i jukumu la kuongoza chama cha Jubilee na hatimaye kupeperusha bendera ya chama hicho katika kura ya urais wa mwaka 2027. Jana Daktari Matiang'i alihudhuria kikao cha mashauriano na baadhi ya viongozi wa Jubilee kilichofanyika katika Safari Park Hotel hapa Nairobi, na mkutano maalum wa kitaifa wa wajumbe utafanyika Ijumaa ijayo. Other stories here, wagonjwa waendesha county sehemu kuu ya pato la serikali za county hutokana na ada za hospitali. Sasa haramu kupiga picha katika KPA. Hii ni baada ya video ya ndege ya kijeshi ya Amerika ikitua KPA kusambaa mtandaoni. Mali, Niger zajiondoa katika ICC. Mataifa hayo mawili yanaongozwa na jeshi ukanda wa Afrika Magharibi. Na kule juu karibu nyumbani, mashujaa mabingwa waliotetemesha dunia kwa kushikilia nafasi ya pili nyuma ya Amerika katika riadha za dunia zilizomalizika juzi Tokyo, Japan, walitua nchini jana na kulakiwa kishujaa. Vile inafaa. Taifa Leo.
All right. From Taifa Leo tuzungumzie siasa zaidi kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa People Daily. Nasema Kings of the Regions, emerging power brokers pushing Kenya's old guard, and they've listed them there on the front pages. Very young people, okay, relatively young. Sio Gen Z, lakini akina George Natembea, ule gavana wa Trans Nzoia, Ndindi Nyoro, Kiharu MP, Mohamed Ali, Nyali MP, Aaron Cheruiyot, Kericho Senator, who's also the majority leader in the Senate, Simba Arati, Deputy Leader ODM, huyo ni Kisii Governor, Babu Owino hapa Nairobi, kule Embakasi East anatetemesha kweli, na ule anasema mimi ndio Sifuna, Edwin Sifuna, katibu mkuu wa chama cha ODM. Na Gathoni wa Mushomba, Githunguri MP, hawa wanasemekana ni Kings of the Regions, emerging power brokers pushing Kenya's old guards. You can read that story on page 4 of this paper. Why President Ruto could be isolated ahead of 2027 polls is another story on page 6 of this paper, and it talks about how powerful the president has become, and with power it pushes away so many people and you end up being very isolated. Unakaa tu na nguvu zako nyingi. Peke yako. Unakaa hivi wewe na nguvu, unakaa hivi, can you imagine una feel tu nguvu hivi, umekaa kwa kitu unasikia ngumu. Nguvu lakini hakuna mtu karibu. Hata mtu akupiga ngumi hakuna. The politics on the front page of the People Daily.
Finally, Business Daily, Treasury's debt spending on salaries and wages hits 451 billion shillings, and the share of the government's borrowed fund rising funds for development projects has fallen to the lowest level in more than a decade, exposing increased reliance on debt to fund recurrent spending such as salaries and wages amid shortfalls in tax collection. Now, Treasury data shows that government spent 582.9 billion shillings on development projects in the fiscal year to June 2025. That is equivalent to 56.4% of the net borrowing of 1.3 trillion from domestic and external lenders in the period. This story is on page 2 of the Business Daily. Other stories here. Billionaire Kibunga Kimani takes 11% stake in Centum. On the ticker, private sector credit up a fourfold in June on reduced rates. Keroche now lodges 10 billion shillings claims against former MD Shoile and DSTV's active customers plunge 84% in a year. That's the Business Daily.
Right. A reminder that we'll be having these three gentlemen in studio to discuss the big headlines, mostly political. Ngujiri Wambugu is a former MP Nyeri Town, Joseph Kamau Munyoro, the MP Kigumo constituency, and Professor Fred Ogola, who's an expert in economics and governance issues. In a few minutes' time.
All right.
Later on the show,
land ownership rights. We'll be having this conversation with John Morakogi, CEO of Finsco Africa, as well as Silas Akira, an advocate of the High Court.
All right, and even after that, we'll be honoring the stars. John Benson, Managing Director, founder of Star Brands Awards, will be in studio at 8:30 this morning. We might have an opportunity to take a look at the traffic situation, tuone kama kuna update, but before that,